Wondering whether your business has what it takes to succeed in the U.S. iGaming market? Internet Vikings proudly presents an all-new webinar to help your business take the lead in the U.S. market. Hosted by experts who work, sleep, eat, and breathe U.S. iGaming.
Our speakers, Jesper Kärrbrink, co-founder and creative director at Green Jade Games, and Elena Kvakova, head of the U.S. expansion at Internet Vikings.
Discover the key secrets of the industry and how to maximize your business potential by learning about and understanding the trendiest topics. If you're an affiliate, online casino, sportsbook, service provider, developer, vendor, or business-to-business supplier interested in expanding into this market, then this webinar is for you.
No, it's my issues. Amazing. Let's just kick this off, Jesper.
Exactly, we do that. We had a fantastic presentation coming from Julia, but you have to survive with me and Elena here. And if you wonder, I'm on the blue screen and Elena is on the purple screen. And really good to have you here and welcome back. We did this seminar in March last year. Have had a fantastic number of people looking into that seminar, and we felt that it's time to do a second one because this market is kind of exploding, I would say. So why don't we jump straight into it, Elena, and start with perhaps one of the most important questions. I mean, being an operator or a service provider like Internet Vikings or a game provider like Green Jade or an aggregator like PiratePlay or an affiliate, what is the most, I mean, and you have decided to expand into the US. What are the most important things to think about or to know and to bear in mind when you go into the US coming from Europe?
Absolutely, Jesper. And to lead in with a little bit of your intro, just as you said, US market is absolutely booming right now. And even though we've chosen to have our second webinar towards the end of the year so we could update you, one of the most important things to consider while entering the US market is how much on top of the news you have to be, because Jesper and I were messaging at least every other day, just talking how many things are changing, how many new players are entering, how many new states are passing the new laws, how many legal issues some companies might be having, and so on and so forth. So I would say that the first and foremost, you have to strap in for the long ride. You have to do all the research. You have to talk to all the possible partners you can talk who are already into the US market, because since they've already done it, they would have a lot of good advice when it comes to the day-to-day things like legal team, accounting team, compliance team, and so on. And
if I might add, isn't that what you said? That's a fact. First of all, you need to have a partner. I mean, you really can't enter the US by yourself. I mean, at least you need a skin, and with that, you need a partner, so to speak.
Well, yes, absolutely. If you are a platform provider or a casino, you have to have, but even besides that, actually, now when I think of it, us as a hosting supplier, also, we had to have a company sponsor us to enter into the US market. So the first thing you have to do is to secure an agreement or to at least a letter of intent with a company that is already credited in the state that you're in.
And this differs from the European market, where you basically can set up shop yourself.
Right.
So and then of course regulation. You really need to have. You need, as you said, it can be a long ride. Just filling in the application forms and takes quite some time. I've done quite some of them, and it takes time with one of them, and it's a lot of details. So that's another thing you really have to be prepared to do, and also perhaps to use some people to help you with.
Absolutely. It's a lot of information that is being requested of you as a director, officer, as a board member. That's why, but on the other hand, it also can be really good because there are multiple states and their requirements are roughly the same. So once you get that over the first hump, the subsequent states are going to be much easier because there's already all of the information. You just need to paste it in the different form.
Cool, that's good. And jumping to that, so what would you say could be, if you just pinpoint your 3 main pitfalls that me as an operator could, or as a service provider could end up in?
Of course, I would say the main pitfall is going to be compliance. If you're not 100% compliant, or if you don't do what you're asked, you can get into trouble with a regulator. And by trouble, I mean that the timelines are going to be even more extended, and no one wants that. So it's important to acknowledge, right, when you enter the market, it's important to acknowledge that it's going to take a little bit of time to get your license, and that's fine, but it's important to do it right away.
Cool. And then of course, I mean, another pitfall could actually be that the market is more difficult than you think, because it is a new market. And if you look at marketing strategies and marketing expenses, they are different and could be much higher than what you're accustomed to in Europe. And some states are quite crowded today. Okay, it's not the 300-400 operators that you might have in UK and so forth, but it's still quite crowded with good people and good brands.
Exactly, and the challenge of the US, or the benefit to compare to the European market, is that there is a very limited amount of skins that is available to the casino providers. So first you have to partner with a land-based casino, and then they have a limited amount of those skins, which again, it might be a good thing because it caps the competition. But on the other hand, the competition for that single skin is so high, you better have a really good product and be all buttoned up before you go into the market.
Cool. That's good. And we're talking about the US market from a European perspective, so it's quite interesting to kind of compare them. You have to do that, and I mean there are similarities, of course, but there are also quite some differences between the markets. And size-wise, the US market today is smaller than the European market, but in my opinion, it will outgrow the European market by far when all the states are opening up. What do you think about that?
I 100% agree. What we have seen so far is there is a very huge appetite in the US for online gaming, and it's only picking up the pace right now. Only this year, if we can swerve into a little bit more about updates for this year, only this year 8 states have passed the legislation to allow sports betting. 8 states. That has surpassed even the most optimistic expectations. So what we're seeing is that the states are seeing the success of the states that are already in the market, and they are willing to embrace it, again, looking for additional source of revenue and additional source of entertainment for the population. So absolutely, I think that, again, like over the next few years, the number of states is only going to grow. A lot of states are going to adopt online casino also, because majority of them have only sports betting right now. Some of the big players like California are likely to join in the next year or so. So it absolutely can surpass European market in the next few years, I think. What do you think?
From a European perspective, you have to be there. Somehow you have to be there, or you're standing out of one of the largest gaming markets that is also regulated. So, and then back to the first question, I think you have to embrace yourself, as you said, Elena, for a long ride. You have to invest in compliance, and you have to invest in doing partnerships. And once again, that's another difference, because we're not really used to that in Europe. We tend to run our things by ourselves, but the US is much more partners. And another thing we see here, as I see as a difference, is that the iGaming market, if you look at the casino market, is perhaps 5. I mean, I would say it like this: we've been doing this in Europe for like 10, 15 years, and while it just opened up as a regulated market in the US. So I would say that in that sense, there's a difference between the player's perspective of an online casino and in the US than in Europe. But on the other hand, on the sportsbook, I think the biggest development we will see going forward in product development and customer features will actually be on the sportsbook side in the US rather than in Europe. So there are differences in both these areas where I think the US will drive sportsbook betting because of its history of sportsbook betting or sports betting, but also due to the massive volumes we have there. And at the same time, I think the US operators will take a lot of influences from the European operators when it comes to operate the online casino part of the business. In that sense, so there are differences, but those differences will also strengthen both of those markets.
Absolutely.
And another difference that I've been thinking about, and you can help me out here, Elena, and that is, I mean, you say that, yeah, but it's 50 states, and you need to have a license in every state, etc., etc. Yes, but that we need to have in Europe as well. And in Europe, it's not 50 states, it's like, I think it's 45, 42 countries, which means that different language, different cultures, different payment systems, etc., etc., etc. So that's also a big difference, because when you enter the US, yes, you need a license per state, but it's the same kind of culture, it's the same language, you only need one customer support basically, and so forth. Isn't that a big difference as well?
Exactly. Yeah, I would say so. Is that again, there is a notion that US is somehow much more difficult than Europe, but again, it's probably easier than Europe in many ways.
Exactly. I think it is. When you nail the first kind of, you came over the first hurdles when it comes to finding the partners and doing the compliance. It's a bit more streamlined process, in the sense that, once again, it's actually one country where you need multiple licenses, and that's much more easy than one continent where you need to translate everything to the local languages, I would say.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, but that's cool. So there are differences, definitely. Some of them are a bit kind of hurdles, but there are also differences in the sense that it makes it. I mean, once again, I think the sum here is that if you think about US, you should go there, because it's a big market today. It will be a huge market. Getting over the hurdles, and it will be more streamlined in the process. But back to this year, 2021, we had this last seminar in March. You touched a bit upon it, but what has happened just since we had that seminar in March and up until now?
Absolutely. So the main development of this year is that there are so many more states that have passed the online sports betting laws. There are 8 of them. A lot of experts were saying that it can be between 2 and 3 states, best case scenario. What we have seen is that there are 8. So that definitely communicates the want for there to be a safe entertainment, like a sports betting, especially in the US, if we consider that's the country where there are only 3 days without any sports events. So I would say that on the one hand, it was a really good surprise, but on the other hand, it was very much expected that this is the way this is going to go. We have seen a few major states like Michigan that started operating late February, early March. So operation in Michigan is full on up and running. And that, more and more people, we're seeing that a lot of revenues are growing. There is a definite increase year over year. We have seen that brick and mortar casinos have started to safely reopen, and they have been reopened at this time for a while. I think everybody's seeing that the online gaming can be done safely, and that this is the industry where you should invest. So
basically, I mean, 2021 is a year where a lot of things has happened, of course. And if we take 2021 as a starting point, and then we kind of try to broaden our views like 5 years in the future, what are the trends? What are we seeing right now that we believe will happen going further here? I mean, in my book, most states will most likely start with a sportsbook license, because it seems like some of the states have been kind of holding back a bit, waiting for perhaps the election and so forth, but also to see how it works in other states and use that as a litmus test, so to speak. So if it works in this state, it should work in ours as well, and that will speed up legislation. Do you see the same? Can we foresee a bit of an explosion when it comes to the number of states in the coming 5 years?
Absolutely, yeah. I think another 4 to 8 states will join in the next 5 years. A lot of those states
I think it will be more, but never mind that.
Even more, maybe towards the end of the 5-year time span. But definitely, I mean, we're at 21 state plus Washington DC mark right now, so we have definitely a long way to go. Yeah. I also think that
and then we also see the long tail, if you can call it that, of online casino. It's not that many of these states that today are running have a licensed online casino business or an online casino license, but isn't that the fact as well, that when they see how much money that generates and they see how it works in these states like New Jersey, Michigan, Pennsylvania, etc., it's most likely that they will open up for online casinos as well, especially as skins to the physical casinos.
I do think that that's exactly what's going to happen. Like, again, because to some of the states, sports betting is a relatively new concept. I feel like they're starting with something small and something basic like sports betting. Once they get to learn that and learn how to operate it safely, they are going to expand to casino. In fact, we do think that Indiana and Ohio are going to be the next states that are going to embrace casino probably in the next year. So there's definitely an appetite. And yeah, to answer your question about the forecast, I think that yes, first is that there's going to be more states. 2 is that a lot of existing states are going to expand. 3, there's going to be a huge shift from gray markets onto the legal markets, because now everybody has the option to do so and not worry about redeeming their winnings or if they're going to get their money eventually. And there's definitely going to be more consolidation of space, right? Jesper, you've seen this already happen.
Absolutely. I think that's if you look in the 5-year perspective, consolidation is one of the main drivers. And I think that's a place where US are ahead of Europe. We see more US initiated deals today than we see European initiated deals. And I think the growth will come faster. I think the consolidation will come faster. And I think this market, the US market, will mature faster than most other market has done. Partly because it started later, but also partly because it's kind of, gaming is a business of scale. So consolidation and maturing fast is kind of a business concept that increases margin and increases profits. So I definitely foresee a strong consolidation race in the US market the coming years, and we see that basically every day now. So absolutely, and another, if you should look perhaps 5 years and a bit more, I also think some of the new gaming products actually will emerge from the US market. But this is me just guessing right now, but I think that the esport, I mean, we have companies like Pinnacle that's been doing that very successfully in Europe. I think they could boom in the US, because I think that the e-gaming market is so much bigger in the US than perhaps in the rest of the Europe. It fits that audience, so to speak. So I also see that, I think we can see some new market trends when it comes to product and so in coming from the US the coming 5 years.
Absolutely, yeah. I think yeah, you're right. Yeah, we'll see how long it's going to take. Yeah, for the esports trend to catch up with the US in the same scale that it is in the Europe. But I do think that it's definitely coming somewhere.
And that might be a topic for Internet Vikings US seminar next year, to invite some from the esport arena together with the 2 of us and discuss this, because yeah, it's bound to happen. And once again, I think US could be the ground for that, so to speak. Good. Let's see here. Should we talk about the 3 US, the main markets in the US right now? Like, I mean, you have New Jersey, Michigan, and Pennsylvania.
Right.
Why have those states or those markets succeeded from a US perspective? I mean, the numbers in New Jersey now on the sportsbook is quite impressive. So if you could develop that detail for a bit, but also answer the question why have they become the role model in the US today?
Absolutely. Well, New Jersey in September, for the first time in the US sports betting history, they reached 1 billion in monthly handle, which is a huge achievement. This has not happened before. And yeah, like a lot of people expected New Jersey would be the state to do it. Since again, they were the first ones in the market and there is a huge already established gaming base. But it's definitely a strong signal that sports betting is going good, and that more and more people are wagering, especially now during the cold season. But yeah, I would say that New Jersey and Michigan are more similar in terms of regulations for suppliers, affiliate marketers, as well as platform providers and casinos than Pennsylvania. Their lowest tier in New Jersey and Michigan is vendor, especially since if the supplier has a flat fee model. In Pennsylvania, however, you would have to be a gaming service provider right off the bat, which entails a little bit more paperwork, more compliance, more financial burden, obviously. But I do think that the regulations are not likely to change over time, that this is how they're going to be. And Michigan and New Jersey, again, you asked the reason why they're doing so well is because they have online casino along with sports betting. So that means that there are additional sources of gains and sources of revenue.
Sorry, Elena, I think what you touch upon here is very, very important, because from a lot of state perspective, it's of course about regulating to protect the players and so forth, and canalize gray market or black market into white market, etc. But I also think it's quite clear that for a lot of states this is revenue, this is tax revenue, and when they see how much. And when they see the ratio between sportsbook and online casinos, it will be very, very difficult for the sportsbook only states not to take online casino. Well, do you think I'm right in that assumption?
Yeah, I think that absolutely. Yeah, like again, because there were no sports betting at all for the longest time, or it was only done in the land-based casinos. There's an innate hesitance towards adopting something right away. So I do think that sports betting, legalization of sports betting is only the first step. But yeah, online casinos are absolutely up there, and yeah, hopefully that more states can do the same, so we can see more better games, more companies.
And I mean, as you said, the reason why they have been so successful is that they mix sportsbook and online casino. So I think that will be kind of a model for a lot of other states as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think so too. And yeah, for sure, in the next 2 years, we will see Michigan make a very interesting competition to New Jersey.
But going back to the European companies wanting to enter the US market, I think one have to be really, you have to start on the sportsbook side, whether you're an affiliate or whatever you are. You have to understand that basically all online gaming in the US are starting as a sportsbook proposition, and I think that's and then the casino will come as a second phase, so to speak, I would say. Good. And how easy? I mean, you talked about it. Michigan and New Jersey is a bit more easy than Pennsylvania, and that's my kind of opinion as well, having been there and working with companies or being in companies, having all these licenses, and this will not change, as you're saying. It will most likely stay the same. So, but when that hurdle is done, are there any other differences in working in these markets? Is it more difficult to run the operations when you have a license in Pennsylvania than in New Jersey or Michigan?
I'd say that I would say no, that they have a solid working regulatory foundation. It's not that hard, but all of your legal and technical processes and documentations will have to be buttoned up to prevent the delays. Michigan, on the other feet, has been swept off the feet due to the overwhelming success during the launch this year because of March Madness, because of the Super Bowl, and they're very heavily backlogged with applications right now. So expect longer wait times. Again, it's not necessarily that it's harder to enter these markets. It just might take longer.
Take a bit longer time. No, but you're right, and from my perspective, it's getting in that is different. But when you are in the market, you have your license. The operations is very much the same from regulations to regulation. It's not that a big difference. And once again, as we talked about in the beginning, then it becomes one market. As soon as you have the regulation, it becomes one market because it's the same language, it's the same payment providers, it's the same kind of marketing and metrics, etc., etc. So I would say that the hurdles are before you get your license.
Exactly, and many other states view this license in the first state as a massive seal of approval. So when you're entering other states, there are way less barriers that you have to pass in order to be approved.
Okay, so what you're saying here now, you should go with the toughest state first, which I would say is Pennsylvania today. So you start with Pennsylvania, and then you will have not a free pass, but you will have a bit of a good mark on your side when you enter the other states. Is that so?
Sure, that's one way to do it. Or you could also consider any of the 4 states plus West Virginia that also has casinos and see where you can secure a partnership and just go into that state. I do believe in following where the demand is. So that would be another way to do it.
So basically your advice is to pick a state where you have the best business opportunities, but the one state at a time in the beginning. That's what you're saying.
Correct. I do think that the companies who are only entering the market can be overwhelmed with the amount of regulations and the new things that they have to be aware as they're only entering the USA. So probably one state at a time is sensible at the beginning. But again, like once that first or second step is in your belt, it's going to be pretty easy in the states to come, as long as there is, again, a partnership already and a company that can sponsor you.
Yeah, and then back to the partnerships. What's your view there today? I mean, that's where I see the competition, and in the already existing, like New Jersey and Michigan and Pennsylvania, are there any more skins to acquire, or are the casinos holding 1 or 2 just for future possibilities?
There are definitely a few licenses left, so the market is not fully closed just yet. But again, when you're entering the market as a casino or a sports book, you have to get that partnership with a casino, you would have to negotiate the terms. And again, a lot of the terms being the revenue share, how much are you willing to give back for this partnership. So there are definitely a few skins left in the key states. But if you need an opportunity to enter into that market, there is definitely an opportunity.
Good. Sorry, I had to mute. I had a jackhammer in the building. But that also means that it's a bit of the seller's market today. I mean, sitting on these skins could be quite valuable.
True. Could be.
Could be. Cool. Back to New Jersey and Michigan. Is it possible for Michigan? I mean, as you said, they had a fantastic start. The timing there is kind of exceptional. Do you think they can overtake New Jersey?
I would say that they will make for a good competition in the next few years. Again, New Jersey has been in the market for way longer, and they have established user base. They have already established sports books. So it might take Michigan a little while. But we'll see. I don't know. I think New Jersey is going to enjoy its laurels for a while, at least for the next 4 to 5 years. What do you feel, Jesper?
Right. So right now, I feel that someone should steal the jackhammer after I couldn't really hear this. But no, all these markets will be huge, and whether New Jersey is bigger than Michigan or not is really not a big question to see. It's more academic, so to speak. But if we take these 3 markets, they are the most successful today because they are offering both sportsbook and online casino. If you would list market number 4, 5, and 6 when it comes to potential the coming years, what would your pick be?
I would say if we are to consider what are the next states, consider that there is nothing in the states going on. I would say California, Maine, Mississippi, Kansas, and Georgia. As for the next New Jersey market, I would say that it's going to be Michigan, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Colorado potentially.
Cool. So there you have your recipe for where to launch your product and where to go. That's good. This seminar is about the US market, but perhaps you should broaden it a bit and into Canada. I know that that's not your area of expertise, but still you hear some. There's some. It bubbles in Canada as well as far as I can see it. It's a prominent gaming market, and more of the Canadian states are opening up as well. Just a short comment on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. So as probably a lot of you know, that Ontario have allowed for the online gaming and online sports betting to be illegal in the province of Ontario. The Gaming Commission in Ontario is now heavily working with existing platform providers to come out from the gray market and into the white market. There are huge incentives to them right now. So we've seen that some of the casinos are definitely have started the process to do that. As for the suppliers, vendors, and affiliate marketers, there is a licensing structure already in place. So if you're interested,
I filled it in today for one of my companies.
Amazing. What license did you get?
It's the first online form ever I have filled in. It's my kudos to Ontario for doing a very strict and user-friendly process.
Exactly. It's been a long time coming, so might as well do it user-friendly, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Ontario is set to be the world's largest fifth gaming market.
It could be. I mean, I think it's huge, and my point here is more to the audience. If you are considering US and expanding into the US, I think you also should consider Canada. Yes, 2 different countries. You need different licenses, but still, basically, to a large extent, the same language. It might be that you need some French somewhere, but to a large extent, the same culture-ish. And most importantly, it's the same time zone. So the people you have over there can kind of work on both these markets, I would say. And from what I have seen from a regulatory point of view, it's not that much difference. The Canadian states are as thorough as the US one. So I've been in one of these 2 hours interrogation with one of the Canadian states. So they have the same quality and such. But once again, you have to but you have to prepare yourself for that compliance part, whether you go into the US or the Canada. And if you have it, you should also, from my perspective, look at Canada. From my perspective, it's a very interesting gambling market.
Absolutely. And also they have very similar, again, requirements. So once you have 1 or 2 or 3 states in the US, it's going to be very easy to expand towards Canada if you manage to secure the partnership. But also the price is very similar. And again, the fact that your company already has a license in the US is a huge seal of approval for the Canadians. And yeah, another point where we have seen is because they only have started to set this whole big regulatory machining process. We're seeing that there are not a lot of delays right now. Actually, their team has been responding to us personally very fast. So that's another good thing, meaning that you can be up and running in Ontario pretty fast.
Exactly. And since this is an Internet Vikings seminar, you of course have to say that Internet Vikings can host you in Canada as well. Just to point it out. Good. Let's change direction totally. And so the US is, I think it has 3 of the 8 largest. What do you call it? Gambling destinations like Las Vegas. We see this as a destination. I think they have 3 of the 8 world's largest gambling destinations. Will they suffer when the market goes more and more online, and when the sportsbook is in your pocket and you have your online casino in your iPhone, etc., etc.? Is that what's your take on that?
I do think that even though the convenience of mobile sports betting or mobile casino is hard to beat, there is definitely a room for the 2 of them. For one is because the social aspect, like going out, will always be attractive to some customers. And for 2, the online sports betting and online casino providers have to partner with a land-based casino. And it's usually, again, as we mentioned already, is based on a revenue share model. So that means that even though part of the income is now being directed elsewhere, it's still, part of it still goes to the brick and mortar establishment.
I share your view to 100%, and I just want to emphasize the first part of it, and that is the more digital, and we see this in a lot of other areas. The more digital we get, the higher is the need to actually socialize physically. I mean, look at cinemas in Sweden, where I live, Stockholm. It's hard to get a cinema seat a regular Wednesday, and the film is, you can see it on TV. You have your own candy in TV. It's your own sofa. No one disturbs you, etc. So still, we go to the cinemas because we need to kind of surround us with other people. It's the same with the restaurants. Yes, we have all been doing home deliveries and Uber food and Foodora and whatever during the pandemic. And now the restaurants are crowded again because it's so much more fun. Even if you don't talk to the people, you don't speak to them, but being in that atmosphere of seeing other people is so important. And I think the casino has exactly the same role to fill. And if you look at most casinos today, especially Las Vegas, they learned this like 10 years ago. It's not only about gambling anymore. It's entertainment. It's an occasion. And that has to be happening in life or in real life. So I totally agree with you. I think we need the social part, and as such, the casinos will, the bricks and mortar casinos will stand strong. And I also think, and to some extent, it will be more okay to entertain yourself with gambling, online casinos, and that will also open up perhaps for an even broader audience taking a trip to these resorts and these destinations as part of their vacation, because it's they know how to do it, so to speak.
Absolutely. And yeah, Internet Vikings were just present in Las Vegas for the conference earlier this month. We went there to G2E, and again, all of the hotels, not just the Venetian in which we were staying, but all of the hotels are buzzing. There are so many people on the street just walking from a hotel to a hotel to gamble or to just seek entertainment. So yeah, it's definitely already coming back. And technically we're still in the pandemic. So yeah, I do think that it just, they will continue to happily coexist in the years to come.
I agree, 100%. And I think we should conclude. So we have some time for questions. And my last question is basically theoretical. Is the US ready to embrace online gambling in full?
I think it already did.
It did. You're absolutely right. We have, I mean, as to summarize this, it's a very interesting market. After you get your licenses, it's basically one market. It's a tough market. It's heavy competition. You have some really strong household brands there, the bricks and mortar casinos entering in, using their brand names, etc., etc. And it's a market where we will see a lot of consolidation. But it's a market that is difficult not to have in your strategic plans for the coming years, I would say.
Absolutely.
Good. Anything else, Elena? You are the expert here. What else? What have we missed? Or should we let's see if we have any questions?
Yeah, let's see if we have any questions. I think we've pretty much covered what we wanted to talk about today.
And that means that I have to put on my glasses, otherwise I can't read them. I have an integrate. Okay, that perhaps not. Okay, Jesper, what are your thoughts about the high taxation on GDR in New York? If I understand it correctly, and correct me here, Elon. New York made a kind of a request, an RFP, and where you had to one of the competitions to get the license was to tell the state what taxes you wanted to pay. Wasn't it like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly like that.
And I think it was DraftKings or whoever it was said like we pay 40%.
Yeah, they were. So it was a part of the bidding process. Yeah, to suggest how the regulation should be shaped, and that's why they won the nomination, is because they offered the highest
exactly.
taxation.
And from my point of view, that's super clever, because what happens here is that you create barriers of entry. With that high tax, you create a barrier of entry, which means that there will be a limited number of suppliers, or perhaps even one or two, which means that you are creating a kind of almost a monopoly. And I have the jackhammer. Give me 2 seconds. And you can still be profitable. You have to spend a bit less on marketing. You have to run your business a bit more efficient. But then the competition is so much less. And I have experience on this, because when I was at Mr. Green, we paid 40% tax in Austria, and that was a really, really profitable market for us, because the number of competitors in that market was very, very small, or very, very few compared to the other markets. So it's doable, and once again, I think that was a very clever strategic move to actually offer that high GDR tax on GDR in New York.
True. I see another question that is asking, what is the average time span of entering US market? How long it takes to receive the license? I can answer from Internet Vikings perspective. We have been applying for a supplier license in states like New Jersey, West Virginia, in New Jersey and West Virginia, it took us about a month or so. In Colorado, amazing state, it took us a few weeks. And in Michigan, we're still waiting for our license, just because, again, they're very heavily backlogged in Michigan and Pennsylvania. But Jesper, how long did it take?
We have to admit that it's a bit more simple for a service provider than for an operator. So it could take a bit longer time for an operator to get a license.
Yes, like for instance, how long did it take your company to get a license in the US market?
Sorry, I was muted. I don't really remember, but it took much longer time than that. Absolutely, but it also matters how you measure the time, because if you measure the time from the first time you take the decision, then you get all the board members, you get all the directors to fill in these papers. They go back and forth. You have to fingerprint, etc., etc. That starting time could be months, just because people are busy. Or months, actually, and then it's a process with the regulators as well. So it's difficult to say, but I think you should be prepared for at least 3 to 4 months. And if you're super efficient and you're luck, it takes 4 weeks.
And what we have also heard from our partner companies is from the moment they apply until the moment they get their license, it can be anywhere between 9 to 12 months. But the good news is that there are temporary licenses that are available after 3 or 4 months after application, provided your application package is full. So you can go live pretty fast if everything is in order.
Good. Let's see here on more questions. Okay, so actually that's
that's a question for you, Jesper.
yes.
We have it on the screen.
Yes, I'm reading. As banking is a challenge. It's a challenge in Europe, and then it becomes a challenge in the US. And it seems that US banks has a problem with gambling, gaming money coming from European banks, and vice versa. This is part of the due diligence process, and this is part of the process that might put some more time into this. And basically, my advice is that you have to have a bank in the market where you are operational. So if you're operational in Sweden, you need a Swedish bank. If you're operational in Germany, you need a German bank. Of course, you can handle everything from your Maltese banks, etc., etc. But at some point, it will be a regulatory demand to have a local bank in some markets. And I think going into the US, I would advise to try to have a US bank as much as possible.
Correct, and what we have also seen in our accreditation process, but also when we are working with the partners, we do know a few banks who have iGaming customers. So if you're interested in reference, I think at the bottom of the screen at the end of the webinar there will be a consultation that you can sign up with us, and we're happy to share that information, or just email us at our support email on the website.
Yeah. Good. And here's another question, and it's actually addressed to you, Elena, but I will answer it. Along with casino platforms, will USA be focusing on multi-gaming platforms, skill-based games, and with real money involved? And as I said before, yes, I think some of that development actually become first in the US. And there are so many initiatives going, not so many, but there are some really interesting initiatives going on when it comes to multiplayer games. I am chairman in Green Jade Games, and we are doing arcade skill games and looking and investing heavily into that one. And yes, we see that the US market will of course be perhaps not an entry point alone, but it is an interesting market. And once again, I think we will see a lot of the product development will be focused on the US. And one reason for that is, of course, as I said before, the size of the market. So yes, we will see more product development being pushed via the US operators. Perhaps not in the beginning, because now it's just a matter of, if you talk online casino, it's a matter of getting the basis right, getting the catching up with all the game providers and broadening the portfolio, etc., etc. But over time, I think we will see a lot of innovations entering the US market for us, whether they come from Europe or US.
And yeah, just to add a little bit to your answer, Jesper, we're already seeing that skill-based games are already allowed by some of the states, and daily fantasy sports. I do think that it's the same. It's going to happen in the same way as online casino. Is that a lot of states who already allow sports betting are going to be adopting skill-based games over the years, as well as the online casino. So there's definitely be movement in that direction.
Good. If you enter the US with different states, do you need different domains for every license? Elena, do you know that?
Do you need different domain? Depending on who you are. If you are an affiliate marketer, yes, you do. If you're a vendor that supplies, like for instance, servers, or like us, Internet Vikings, we did not need a different domain. But if you're a casino provider, or if you're a sports book, what we have seen others are doing is that, yeah, they're creating a subdomain for every state, like Jersey, Michigan, brand name. That's one good question that I'll take. Is cloud-based computing allowed in all of the US markets, and do you provide it? Cloud-based hosting is allowed into the US market, but with an asterisk. the servers have to be based in the state. So if you are serving Michigan market, you have to have your servers in Michigan market, and then you can do cloud computing out of Michigan for other Michigan gaming board licensees, but it is possible.
Good. And we have a question here, Elena, that says affiliate regulations, question mark. Would you comment a bit about this? Is there a different regulations for affiliate? Is there something affiliates has to think about when it comes to regulation?
Right. So like, again, it's going to be different from state to state, but overall, affiliate regulations are very similar to vendor regulations. With one pitfall is that if the affiliate is based on a flat fee model, they can usually apply for just a vendor license, and it's very easy. If the affiliate is based on a revenue share model, they're going to have to go with a supplier license. It's the higher tier, and they would have to do all of the personal disclosures, fingerprints, and so on and so forth. Again, it can be slightly different from state to state. Again, if you're needing help with the regulation, we're happy to help you with that if you reach out to us. But yeah, overall, it's easy for the affiliates that are based on a flat fee model.
Yes, and here's another really good question. With MGM, DraftKings, and FanDuel accounting for 70% of the iGaming revenues, how can a new operator stand out? And let's talk about that for a while, you and I. It's a really, really good question, and this is where the industry is heading right now. As I said before, consolidation, and consolidation in this industry is natural. First of all, there are no need for 400 operators offering the same games or the same matches with the same odds, etc., from a customer perspective. You want some variance, you want some brands to choose from, absolutely, but you don't need an overflow of brands. Secondly, this industry is born on pool games or games with pooled winnings, like a lotto, and that has created large companies historically, because when you offer a pool like a lotto, if you win 1,000 euros on that lotto, that's the max win you can have. No one plays it, so you need to have like hundreds of millions or whatever as the first prize, and to do that you need to be big. So it's kind of in the DNA for a gaming company to be big and to control an area of your market. So I think we will see consolidation, but on the other hand, there will always be room for creative new starters or smaller brands, and 70% is a lot, but you should also remember that 30% of a huge market is also quite a lot. So I think there are room for smaller companies. I think the consolidation will continue. The bigger will get bigger and the smaller will be smaller, but there are still opportunities, absolutely, especially if you have something that stands out a bit. If you have a brand or a customer experience or products, if you invest in more in a live product or a live product and no one else has, as an example, I think there's absolutely a room. But once again, yes, the US market will be tough because you have some really, really big household names there, and they are spending a lot of money in marketing.
And yeah, just to add a little bit to Jesper's reply, what we have seen happen is that when the new brands from Australia or from Europe are coming, again, that are not BetMGM, DraftKings, and FanDuel, they are doing partnerships with the sports teams. Heavily advertise it. They advertise heavily, again, on sports events, on the billboards everywhere. It's more like, again, the barrier is a little higher for the smaller players, but again, with the right kind of marketing, we do think that there's room for everybody, and you can definitely go for that market share.
Exactly, and sometimes being small in a huge market can also be very, very profitable. But it's a very good question, and that's something as an operator you have to take into consideration. Is it worth the risk of doing this? But then on all the other sides, I mean, service providers, there's always a need for service providers. But this is more from an operator perspective. You have to take this in consideration, and you might even have to calculate that. Okay, it's only 30% left to fight about. Is that enough for us? Is that good enough? Or that we can take some because our product is so good, so we can actually take market shares from the big operators.
Absolutely.
Cool. Do we have any more questions, Elena?
Yeah, I do see one last question. Or maybe not the last, that we're happy to answer. Can we expect regulation in other US states which rely on GLI 19 as with Michigan? I do think that, yeah, it's definitely gonna, and it's already been happening in literally the last 4 to 5 months. More and more states are adopting GLI. And I've seen that the GLI company itself has gotten their license in multiple states, like Virginia, I think, Tennessee, Michigan. So I do think that it's one of those European standards that is going to come to the US next year for sure.
And we should remember that GLI 19, if I understand it correctly, it has a lot of similarities with ISO certifications in if it's 27001 or whatever it is. So I think that's also something that you should really consider to applying for these certificates, because it will help you in the process of getting certified in the States as well as it does in Europe.
Yeah, 100%.
Good. With that, I think we are about to conclude our second US seminar. Elena, you are amazing. Thanks a lot for this. And I hope that all the viewers have enjoyed this. And if you think you still have some questions you need to get answered, please contact Elena. She is our expert on the US market. And whenever you need, there are some hosting services available from Internet Vikings. See you all.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Jesper, for hosting at the last second.
Cheers.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.